Everyone, thank you for joining us and welcome to Learning Labs presented by the Forget Computers team of experts. Our goal is to share ideas to help our clients get the most value out of their Apple technology. My name is Kat Garbus and I'm the Client Relationship Manager here at Forget Computers. Today's presentation is the fourth and last in our Security and Privacy series. Today we're focused on team security. We created this series because security concerns come through our support desk a lot these days, and we've noticed that many Apple users aren't sure where to start when it comes to security. They sometimes even have a false sense of security simply because they use Macs and iPhones. That is a dangerous and naive view of the world, and we're hoping to change that. Your host today for the program is Ben Greiner, founder and president of Forget Computers.
All right, thank you, Kat, and thank you all once again for taking time out of your busy day to join us. And it looks like I failed to advance the slide, so let me do that now. Okay, I'm opening the presentation with a cliche, so please bear with me. It's simply a fact that security often breaks down quickly in teams because not everyone brings the same security values and experience to the team. You may be secure and your best teammate may be secure, but how do you guarantee that everyone on your team is as diligent as they need to be when it comes to security? The fact is, you can't. However, just like you don't want to be the easy target when protecting yourself, you don't want to be accused of not trying when it comes to team security. And even though it may not be possible to ensure 100% compliance 100% of the time, there often are a lot of things you can do to reduce your risk and liability. That's really what our goal is when it comes to security. Our goal is to reduce our risk, forget perfection, and strive for ongoing improvements. Let's run through 3 key requirements to securing your team. Then we'll get into some software and workflows that we use at Forget Computers to reduce our risk. Number 1, document your expectations. It's not enough to assume everyone on your team has the same expectations or understanding or even the experience when it comes to security. You have to be clear about what your expectations are and share these with your team. Start by establishing an information security policy for your company. This will provide a company-wide framework for improvement. One of the main purposes of this policy is to help identify and prevent the compromise and misuse of company data. You'll want to share this with all of your employees and new hires, even interns and temporary or part-time employees. There are lots of examples online. You can even start with the one we have on our website. Scroll to the bottom of forgetcomputers.com and click on the security link to be taken to our full policy. And if you scroll to the bottom of our policy, you'll see that it was adapted from the University of Illinois' Information Security Policy. Now let's be honest. A lot of these policies are written to placate an auditor or to cover your corporate ass. Very few people actually read these policies, and those that do often get confused and will beg you to never make them read it again. Despite these problems, it's a good place to start. It's better than nothing. It will give you an opportunity to learn more, and because you'll want to share this with your current team and all future recruits, it will force you to start a discussion about how important security is to your organization. This part is really important. Most people want to do the right thing. It's just that most people don't know what the right thing is when it comes to security. And simply asking them to sign an information security policy is not going to educate them. However, it will set the tone that you're serious about security, and it will lay the foundation for the next step that is critical. Number 2, lead by example. Get management involved. Management absolutely must care about security for your team to care. Educating yourself about security so you can lead your team is very important. And if you are at the top of your company org chart, then this will be easy. However, if you answer to a manager or the CEO or CIO, then you're going to need their involvement to make this work. Do not expect your IT team to carry the burden of security. They can't do it. They can give security lectures like this one and enforce compliance with technology tools, but building a real culture of security in your organization requires involvement from management. This is critical. Business executives must adhere to the same security policies as everyone on the team, and they cannot publicly complain about it. They must talk about how important security is to protecting client and company data, and they must lead by example with security awareness, security best practices, and ongoing security discussions. Everyone needs to know how important security is to the leaders of the organization. This is the only way to create a culture of security awareness. If security is important to your organization, then you have to find ways to talk about it. Of course, at the end of the day, we can't simply talk about it and trust that people are following the rules. We need to enforce compliance when we can or audit compliance when we cannot. That's our third and last goal for team security, compliance. Let's take a look at two examples. In addition to email, one method of secure communication we use within Forget Computers is an application called Slack. Slack has two-factor authentication, something we talked about in our learning lab on passwords. Unfortunately, the subscription plan we currently have does not allow us to enforce this security feature. We could upgrade our account and enforce this, but we chose to simply ask team members to manually enable this security feature. I sent an email to our team, then a few days later, I checked for compliance. Even with our small team of 12 security-minded individuals, it took a few phone calls and emails to reach 100% compliance. If your organization has more than a dozen people, then you'll most often benefit from an automated compliance system. An example of that is another tool we use called Zendesk. Zendesk is our ticketing system, our support desk system. And it allows us to enforce a special type of authentication called single sign-on, or SSO. Because we have the ability to enforce this, it required a bit of planning before activation. We had to communicate the change to the team and set a date for activation. Once we activated this feature, any team member who needed to continue using Zendesk was forced to use the new single sign-on authentication. Unlike in Slack, where we simply asked people to comply, in this case, there was a clear motivation to get this working because they could not do their job without access to Zendesk. I'm sure everyone will agree that most people prefer to be asked and audited rather than told and forced to do something. However, if you explain the reason for the security enforcement, most people will understand and appreciate the security. Once again, communication is absolutely critical. Before we talk about the software we use to enforce our single sign-on at Zendesk, I need to stress that software alone will not solve a security problem. That's why it's important, very important, to start building a culture of security awareness within your organization. If the culture isn't there, then the software will be looked at as a hindrance rather than a benefit. Let's talk about two tools we use to reduce our security risk at Forget Computers. Unfortunately, they have similar sounding names and they both deal with passwords. They are 1Password and 1Login. We talked a lot about 1Password in our last two presentations on passwords. It's a great application that runs on the Mac, iPhone, and iPad, even Android and Windows. Although it's built for individuals, it has one feature that is great for teams, and that feature is called shared vaults. I have two shared vaults. One I share with my wife, and the other I share with my team. The setup takes some coordination and syncing with a Dropbox account, and is beyond the scope of today's learning lab. However, the concept is this. I have my primary vault, and I have two shared vaults. One I share with my family, and one I share with my office. The family vault is shared with my wife and two kids. The office vault is shared with our support desk. Everything is synchronized through Dropbox. Shared vaults have separate master passwords and data. Changes made to a shared vault only affect that specific vault. Remember, every 1Password vault requires a complex and secure master password. You'll want to use a unique master password for each vault. The good news is you only need to share this password once. So those you are sharing with can add the shared vault to their 1Password and continue using their own master password to unlock all vaults. In this case, I only need to unlock my primary vault to unlock all 3 vaults. I know it sounds a little complex, but after you've set it up and you start using it, you'll find that it's really rather easy. Everyone with access to a shared vault can make changes to it. Changes made to a shared vault will sync with everyone else using that vault. This is great for accounts that periodically require a password change. One person makes the change and everyone has access to the new password. It's very important to note that while future updates to a shared vault can be revoked, the secrets it already contains cannot be unshared. This means that if someone leaves your office, you'll want to ask them to destroy their vault. This is similar to turning in the keys to the office. Can you prevent them from making a copy of the keys? Not at this time. However, you can kill access to Dropbox, thus breaking the ability to sync future changes. And if you're really concerned, then you'll want to change the passwords within the vault. That's an overview of 1Password's shared vault feature. Now let's look at OneLogin. 1Password, sorry, I wrote 1Password. It's actually OneLogin, and that's where the problem lies. I sometimes interchange the words. My team catches me doing that all the time, actually. So OneLogin is web-based identity management. Historically, most teams have in-house servers, and these servers have user accounts that control who has access rights to the server. With web-based identity management, we're simply moving the user accounts from an in-house server to the cloud. The advantage is we can now centrally manage who has access rights to various cloud-based services. This is becoming more important from a security and management standpoint as we all accumulate more cloud-based services. This is great for onboarding a new employee, a temp, an intern, or a freelancer, anyone who needs access to your accounts. You simply provide OneLogin access and they gain access to all your company apps. When they leave the company, you terminate access to OneLogin and they immediately lose access to all company apps. It's an extra layer of security that also provides convenience for administrators and users. Here's what it looks like for me at Forget Computers. My default web page is the Forget Computers OneLogin page. You may remember from previous learning labs that I have a super complex and secure password protecting everything that I do. So I use my 1Password to unlock my OneLogin. Once I'm in, I have one-click access to several company accounts. We list our primary accounts on the main page, which you see here, and then we have additional less used applications and personal applications available on the other tabs. Full disclosure, not every website or cloud solution plays well with web-based identity management, and those that do integrate in a variety of ways. Some, like Box.com, can be configured to absolutely require OneLogin. This adds an extra layer of security to your cloud-hosted files. When Box is integrated with OneLogin, the only way to gain access to Box is to authenticate through OneLogin. Box and other applications refer to this as single sign-on, or SSO. Other applications can work with OneLogin, however, they may not support single sign-on. In those cases, although OneLogin provides a central dashboard for all your apps, like you see here, there's nothing stopping an employee from visiting a website and logging in directly. Hopefully, they're using a secure password. Here's what these options look like. Most people visit Box directly and log in. If you were to use OneLogin, you could log in directly at Box, or you could log in through OneLogin. However, if you were to enable single sign-on and its integration between Box and OneLogin, then you would force everyone to access Box through OneLogin. and that's the most secure way to do it. SSO integration is growing with more apps supporting SSO every day. Single sign-on with web-based identity management like OneLogin is the future, and it's available today. I recommend everyone start planning for it. OneLogin makes it easy to get started with a free account. If you're a Forget Computers client, please contact us so we can get you enrolled in our service provider account at OneLogin, because working with us versus creating your own account will make it much easier for us to assist you. Forget Computers is currently on the $4 enterprise account, and I realize that no one looks forward to spending money on yet another monthly service. However, from a security perspective, what would you pay to reduce your security risk? I personally feel that $4 is a fair price to pay for additional layers of security that reduces the risk for my company and helps me better secure not just my company, but also my client data. Let's summarize what we talked about today, and then we'll take some questions. Number one, start with a plan to get started. Google around for an information security policy or visit our website for an example. Number two, get management involved to lead the shift toward a security-aware culture in your organization. Number three, once you've laid the foundation, consider using software to enforce or audit your employees. We talked about 1Password and OneLogin as two options that work well together. Remember, the goal is progress, not perfection. Security is complex. It takes time. Okay, I'm going to send this presentation back to Kat for some closing comments, and we'll open the presentation up for questions.
Okay, thanks once again for taking time out of your day to increase your security awareness. Please visit us online at forgetcomputers.com/learning-labs when you can see our previously recorded presentations and learn about upcoming ones. We'd appreciate your feedback as well. If you feel we have helped or let you down, please let us know. Open a ticket or reach out to us at feedback@forgetcomputers.com. We also welcome suggestions for our new content. And it looks like we have a few questions. First question, is email a safe and secure way to share files?
Yes, good question. Unless the file is password protected, my answer is going to be no, it's not safe, or rather there are safer ways. In addition, email is really never as efficient at sharing files as something like Box, where you can store the file and simply email a link for download, and then Box determines who has access to that file. That way nobody can share the link with somebody else, and that person then has access to that file, because if they don't have access to Box, they're not going to get that file.
Okay. Looks like our second question is, what if OneLogin goes down? Do I lose access to my applications?
Very good question. Yes, in some cases, if you are forced to authenticate through OneLogin to get to Box and OneLogin is unavailable, then you will be shut out from Box. I have seen this happen once, but it was very short-lived, and it's really no different than your in-house server going down and you can't get work done because you don't have access to the server. It can happen. It most likely will happen. Obviously, OneLogin is very interested in seeing that it does not happen, and we haven't seen it happen, like I said, maybe once that it went down.
Okay, and then it looks like our last question, I feel like this will apply to a lot of people. Can a former employee with access to a shared vault still log into accounts?
Yeah, another good question that we sort of touched on, but I know it's a little complex, but it really depends. If you've shared a vault and then that employee leaves and you've killed access to the vault, you don't know if they have a copy of it, right? So assuming they can no longer sync, and assuming the account in question is not using single sign-on, meaning they can still log in directly to, say, Box. And we're making a lot of assumptions here, we're making a lot of assumptions here. Assuming you have not changed the Box password, then yes, it would be possible for a former employee with the proper credentials to log into Box, and that's really no different than today. If you have the login, you're going to get in. So really, all of these tools help, but there's really no silver bullet for 100% security. It takes teamwork and it takes communication. So I think that's it. If that's all the questions we have for now, I want to thank everyone once again for joining us, and check out our website for future learning labs.
Great. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.